Happy New Year, Hillary. All right, go ahead.
It's Tuesday, and you know what that means. Baldy and the Beast is back. And better than ever.
You were so excited about that, and you fucked it up the first time.
I did fuck it up the first time. Boom! What are we doing today?
Well, in kind of sad news, over our break, the man known as Jon Huber, Mr. Brodie Lee, did sadly, tragically pass away. So instead of doing our regularly scheduled Steamboat Savage match that we were going to be doing today, instead we are going to be watching the dog collar match from Dynamite back on December 7th, which was where Cody won the title off of Brodie. It was really October 7th. And that was kind of his last match, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, he went off after this, and something must happen with his lungs.
Yep.
From what I heard, not long after this,
So we're going to be watching that kind of in a tribute to Brodie Lee tonight. Just, you know, it kind of feels like the right thing to do at this point.
Yeah. And, like, not to be this way, but it's also the best dog collar match of all time. Like,
yeah.
It's not that we're not just watching any match. Like, this is a damn good. They beat the holy hell out of each other.
Yeah.
But like you said, so this was like the 7th of October of this past year. So kind of how this all started was Cody had his first run with the TNT title after he won it from Lance Archer. Went through, was beating people. He had a lot of people come in from outside the promotion. You had names like Warhorse get, national TV time.
Yep.
Ricky Starks debuted and ended up getting signed because of this. So did Eddie Kingston. They had lots of good names come through here, and it was actually a part of the show I enjoyed a lot. Then they announced that Brodie was going to be one of the competitors, and Brodie came out and squashed Cody.
Yep.
Essentially, came out, won the match very decisively. There was no doubt who was the winner of that match. And beat Cody and Arn and Brandy down after the match. And all that was so Cody could go away and film the Go Big show.
Yeah.
Which is cool. This worked out for the best.
I mean, I've not seen the show. It just kind of seems like your generic variety stuff, but it did work out best for the storyline for how this wound up. I guess it's in wrestling terms, it's kind of fitting, but still very sad that this is Brodie's last match because in a really weird way, he did kind of go out on his back, which isn't really how you want to think of this, but that's kind of what happened.
I think his first match was on TV was a win against Cody.
Okay.
And his last match on TV is a loss against Cody.
Yep.
So I think that is unintentional awesomeness. That is such cool storytelling. And it's tragic the way it happened, but the fact that all of that was accidental and it all still comes in its full circle,
right?
It kind of adds another layer.
It's too, like, it writes itself too much in a way for it to be fiction, but it is kind of like,
yeah,
it just kind of happened that way. Sad.
Do you have anything else you want to say before we get into this?
No. I think I've kind of said as much as I need to about this. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, when this first aired, I don't think I watched the whole match. I don't know what happened that night. I was busy doing something else, and it was like on in my periphery, so I never saw the full match. I know that it was good, but I'm excited to watch this for multiple different reasons.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and run down the card real quick.
Yeah.
Got this.
Hillary in the chat saying that Bray's tribute made her cry. There have been a lot of really good tributes in the time. The kind of weird thing about us doing is about almost 2 weeks out is that it's giving the whole situation a little bit of time to breathe. So we've seen all these tributes. There was the full tribute episode of Dynamite last week. There was all the stuff on BTE. There have been all the videos, all the tweets, all the pictures and stuff coming out from all the different wrestlers. So, I mean, we're kind of coming in on the end of all that's happened so far, but it's been really nice to see all that stuff. We'll kind of maybe not look at some of the tributes, but kind of like talk about them a little bit after we watch the match and stuff.
Yeah. Not to get off topic, that was the best tribute anything I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
That was the whole night was. You cannot tell it was written 2 days before.
Oh no!
Like that was a well-written card, and it makes sense in the grander story of things too. Yes, there were some things that were a little, kayfabe breaking, if you would, but I don't give a fuck. Like that's fine. There, you great card for 2 days notice.
Well, and as much as you don't want something like that to wind up building the story off of it, you kind of still have to work a story a little bit into the show, and I feel like that the tribute episode in and of itself was a good opportunity to turn the Dark Order babyface instead of keeping them heel the whole time, because you can't tell me after that show that you believe any of these people as babyface or as a heel. Like they've kind of got to go baby at this point.
Yeah, and that bright Colt Cabana as a baby is good, so that'll be cool.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's interim leader.
Yeah.
But anyways, so the show we're watching started off with the FTW champion, Brian Cage versus Will Hobbs. This is before, obviously, the turn.
Yep.
Then we have the 20-minute brush with greatness that kind of a neat little gimmick FTR was doing.
Yeah.
Versus TH2, Angelico, and Jack Evans. Obviously, FTR is going to win that match. Then you have the match we're watching, and this was followed up by Serena Deeb and Big Swole. Sorry, I'm going down the results page on AEW because there's not like an official card that has everything.
Yep.
There was a couple segments in here on this night. They announced some people for that AEW World Title Tournament that Kenny Omega ended up winning. They showed a thing where Jon Moxley cut a promo on Lance Archer because they were about to have their match. And the main event was Chaos Product, Luther and Serpentico versus Chris Jericho and Jake Hager, because this was the Jericho 30th anniversary show.
Yep.
And I know him and Luther go way back. Yep. So.
And JD in the chat just saying Happy New Year real quick. Happy New Year, JD. Good to see you around.
Happy New Year. Are we ready to?
Yeah, I think we can go ahead and
get this match.
I think we can go ahead and get into the match. If you're trying to look for it, like we said, this is the December 7th episode of Dynamite. You can actually find it if you sign up for an account on BR Live or Bleacher Report Live. You can actually watch all these old episodes, a lot of these old episodes of Dynamite.
It's about 2.5 months. About 2 months back. So about 2 months is usually they wait to put it on there, and then it goes on.
So we kind of like just made the cut to watch this one. Mm-hmm. But if you're trying to watch this on BR Live, this is at 40. We're going to be starting it at 49 minutes and 29 seconds. There's still going to be some of the
29.
29. I have 29, but you were a little bit behind me because that's the one thing with BR Live is that it's very difficult to like scrub back to where you need to be.
Yeah.
So that's where I've got mine starting, wherever you want to start. We're going to be there's a couple minutes of entrances, and we're going to be watching Brodie's entrance, obviously, because again, this is the tribute episode for that. And there is just kind of the episode introduction to it. So for anybody still looking for it, we're going to go ahead and count it down, starting at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Do you want to keep watching on here?
No, I think we can go ahead and cut that portion off, unless you want to keep watching.
No, I think we'll pause that, and we'll go into the hot tag.
The hot tag.
Or the hot tagline, whatever I named this. I like the segment. It's fun. We're doing it anyways. Whether I get the name right or not. 3 words, Willem. 3 words or less. How would you describe this match?
Shit. Fucking violent bloody mess.
Yeah. I was thinking blade jobs make wrestling good, but wrestling good is one word.
Well, okay, like we arbitrarily limited ourselves to 3 words, like just 5 or less. 5 or less makes it interesting. So instead of doing rebook this week, it kind of feels disrespectful to kind of rebook Brodie out of his own match, simply because, you know, this is a tribute to him. We don't want to be disrespectful to him in any way, shape, or form. So after the tribute episode, I had come up with an interesting booking idea of how they could book a new leader of the Dark Order. And my idea is that instead of trying to bring somebody in from the outside, like the immediate thought is that you could bring in Hangman and he could be like, you know what, I can be your leader now, but that wouldn't feel good. It'd kind of be like if anybody from outside the Dark Order came in and just immediately made themselves the leader. It'd kind of feel like if there was an open position for a supervisor at your job and they brought in like me to do the job instead of promoting somebody that works at the company. So my idea for how they could actually book a new leader to the Dark Order is have there be an internal tournament with the Dark Order members. Because that way you could see matches like 5 going up against
10,
something like that, in a good, like a David versus Goliath type match, and 5 gets a cheeky win over 10 and he puts himself up into the next round, and then you see like John Silver getting a solid win over fucking Colt Cabana or something like that. And then in the final, it turns into John Silver versus Alex Reynolds, so that you actually see like the 2 guys that are always being paired together as a team. You see how they fare against each other. And then whoever wins out of that, obviously, like John Silver's kind of the person out of this whole situation who is the most over at this point. So it would kind of make sense for his character to kind of step up and take the role of leader, and to prove himself that he can do that by pushing his way through a tournament of all the other members of the Dark Order.
I'm going to steal Walter's idea a little bit here because I like it.
Uh-huh.
And Walter said, there's no leader but a prophet. And
okay.
I think that's fucking cool as shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be a wrestler. It doesn't even have to be a wrestler. It could just be somebody that looks like a culty prophet. I don't care. They can just, you know, I mean, it should be a wrestler, somebody attached to the business. But you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be like an active guy.
Oh, shit. Who was the guy that managed AOP? Paul Ellering. Have Paul Ellering be the Dark Order prophet.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. The other person I was thinking was Father James Mitchell.
Yep, James Mitchell's another good one.
He'd be a good prophet.
I don't know who else. There are like other weird ones around. I feel like Kevin Sullivan's still alive, but that's kind of a touchy subject.
I've met Kevin Sullivan. He's grumpy.
He's a grumpy old man.
To his credit, I met him at an airport because I happened to overhear Gary from Pitbull number 2. I happened to hear him talking to somebody else, and I walked over and I talked to them about wrestling for like 15 minutes. And I think Kevin Sullivan was on the same plane as my girlfriend because they both came down like around the same time.
Yeah. And
I was still talking to them, and Kevin Sullivan goes, "Who the fuck is this?" And Gary was like, "It's just a mark," and he was like, "Oh, okay."
Grumpy old Kevin Sullivan.
Oh, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah. I feel like if that'd be a little too on the nose for AEW trying to remake WCW if they brought in Kevin Sullivan in a in a supernatural-esque role.
It'd bring back too many Dungeon of Doom.
Yeah.
And we don't want more Dungeon of Doom. We didn't want Dungeon of Doom the first time.
Yeah. Big
Speaking...
Red. Walter says, yeah, Big Red, and he can talk to Brodie. Who's Big Red?
Eric Redbeard.
Oh, okay. It
depends on how they do it. You would have to do it in a way that's not disrespectful or fucky.
Right, because I like the idea, but it kind of feels, I don't want to say hokey, but
wrestling. All of wrestling is fucking hokey.
Yeah. Maybe a little shoehorned because they're friends, but because they're friends, the connection is there, so it could come together a little bit better.
I thought you were talking about the Prophet thing in general. I didn't think you were just talking about Redbeard there. I thought you were saying the Prophet thing in general is hokey, and I was like, it's fucking wrestling.
No. The Prophet is actually like a solid idea. But Eric Redbeard, that would be... the story would have to be right for it to work, but he's like the only outsider that I could see taking that spot.
Yeah.
Right.
You know who I want to win. I want Cowboy Boy.
Well, you don't want Slick Billy with the Big Willie this time to be the leader of the Dark Order?
That would make no sense. That would make negative sense. Even I don't think that would be good.
That would make negative sense.
But I think you could run it in such a way where you say, Brodie was recruiting you to be his number 2.
Yeah.
And now we need a number 1. And you could write it in the storyline in such a way that I think it could work.
Yeah.
But I kind of agree with you, and maybe they should go from inside and do Evil Uno, who was the de facto leader before. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, because how was the power balance supposed to be before? Because obviously Evil Uno was supposed to be the interim leader, and then Stu Grayson was the muscle, and then everybody else were just kind of like the faceless ghouls.
I feel like everybody else, while they played roles, they were kind of on the same. I don't feel like Silver is at a different level than Preston Vance.
Right.
I don't feel like Reynolds is at a different level than
Well,
Anna Jay.
All the numbers are all on the same level, except for Anna Jay. For whatever reason, Anna Jay feels like she's kind of above. Anna Jay, at least in the storyline of the Dark Order, feels like she is on the same level as Stu Grayson. Because the hierarchy feels like it's the numbers, and then Anna and Stu, and then Evil Uno, and then it was Brodie.
Yeah.
But who knows? Obviously, like I said, the one that's kind of come out as the most over person in the whole faction, at the moment at least, is John Silver. So
I don't mean this as an insult to Silver, though. I don't know if he's ready to lead a group.
That's kind of what I was thinking, because he doesn't feel like leadership material. Maybe if they were to do a tournament, the final would be something like John Silver versus Stu Grayson or something like that. And then Silver puts
Colt
on...
Cabana. I feel like Colt Cabana could lead.
Colt Cabana feels a little silly as far as his character goes.
Yeah.
But either it'd be John Silver versus either Stu Grayson or Evil Uno, and then he puts on a good solid performance, and during the course of the match, all the rest of the members of Dark Order come out and they start crowding around the ring, and they kind of sort of get behind John Silver just to be you can do it, you feel like you can get there. And then by the end of the match, either Stu or Uno, they pull out I don't know. They pull off some way to get a solid, decisive win, so that we have a new dedicated leader of the Dark Order, who's somebody who's been there the whole time, and Silver kind of gets elevated up because he feels like he needs to be there.
Either that, or they could just break the group down. You could have maybe Silver and Reynolds leave. You could have Uno and Grayson leave. And then do the other guys really need to be in the group? I don't know. Depending on how they want to take it, because I don't know if they want to book it without Brodie. You know, it all depends on how they're feeling backstage and how the people in the group feel.
Yeah. Boy, though, that's something I never expected to hear out of you, to break up a faction.
I know. I fucking love factions. They're my favorite part. Trust me, I almost said they'd have Colt Cabana keep the rest of them as his own little faction.
Yeah.
But I very rarely will I say maybe they should break up this faction.
Just have him be Colt's Coconuts.
Oh yeah, the Colt Canuts.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything else you really want to talk about tonight?
Wrestle Kingdom was good, and if you haven't seen it, you should.
Yeah, Wrestle Kingdom was very good.
They did a Finger Poke of Doom spot.
Did they?
And so in the final of 4 of the New Japan Rumble today.
Oh yeah. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, it was great. So Fale and Chase Young were in the ring, and Jesus Christ, I got my football names and my wrestling name mixed up. Fale and Chase Owens were in the ring, and was it Bushi? Yeah, Bushi was in. Yeah. Bushi was waiting on the outside because he wasn't going to go in with the 2 of them because he's not stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And Toriano did the same thing. And then they go do a high five, and Chase goes up like this, and then Fale just goes boop, and they both have to dive into the ring to break up the pin. And they teased it so hard, and I was like, they're going to do a Finger Poke of Doom. Oh, it was great.
It's fucking great.
Done the right way, because I don't think a Finger Poke of Doom should ever finish a match. But if you want to tease it in a multi-man, I am fucking here for it.
I did have one thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit. And it pertains to the passing of Brodie. And that it's really kind of heartwarming to see people from all over the wrestling world come together and give their tributes for a man such as Brodie Lee. By all accounts, he was a very stand-up guy. He was a great father. He was a great person. Everybody backstage loved being around him. He was just somebody who was universally loved within the wrestling industry. But the kind of sad thing that I saw to come out of this whole thing, aside from the obvious, is that there was so much... At least once or twice in the comments or the retweets on all these things was that WWE guys shouldn't have the right to give tributes to somebody like Brodie because WWE didn't give a shit about him during his run, and that doesn't matter. Like, a person's still gone, and a person that was linked to these people like intrinsically forever. So in a time like this, especially where we are in the world right now, there's no stuff like tribalism, and especially in the regards to professional wrestling, and it has no place. It's so disheartening to see somebody like Bray Wyatt put his tribute, his final send-off to somebody that he saw as a brother up on Instagram or up on Twitter, but in the comments you see something like, oh, well, now WWE cares. They didn't care about him for 2 years until he went to AEW, and then somebody decided they were going to book him properly. You didn't book him for any of this time. Just shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Now's not the time. It's so disheartening to see stuff like that emerge out of like what's supposed to be a mourning time for the entire wrestling world.
To say what you said, but to say it with much less couth and with much more cussing. Fuck your tribalism.
Right.
It's wrestling. Good wrestling is good for everybody. Mm-hmm. Yes, AEW is probably my favorite. But that doesn't mean I hate the dub. Like, right. I want the dub to do better. I want the dub to do good. And AEW doing good means that the dub has to up their game. And if they up their game, then AEW has to do the same. And then everybody's product is better and more people watch wrestling. Like, being tribalistic is dumb. Just watch what you like to watch. And if that's both, Great.
Right.
It's one or the other. Also great. But other people have different opinions than you.
Well, and on top of all that, like, there's a time and a fucking place. Like, these people
I don't think there is.
There-
I think that we all need to be much more understanding of each other's.
Well, no. What I mean is, there's a time and a place for like, for saying shit like that. Like, obviously, there's no like. I don't care if you want to like. I don't support people being tribalistic about this stuff, but that's human nature, and I hate seeing it in anything. But there's nothing that I can do to stop it. But putting your feelings that WWE didn't book the guy properly, in like the entirety of his WWE run, putting something like that in the comments of somebody mourning the loss of a friend, that's just very disheartening to see. But it was very, very good to see how many people were seemingly touched by Brodie's passing.
Yeah, like our friend Walter said in the chat, AEW was needed for the wrestling community so the wrestling community as a whole can grow.
Yeah.
And I agree with that 110%. Only having won anything is bad for that industry.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to stay on the cutting edge. You don't have to create new shit. Because what? People have nowhere else to go.
Right.
Like, competition is always good.
Right.
Always. Except if you're competing to like see who can kill the most people. In which case, that competition is bad.
Right.
Don't do that competition.
It was very like, it made me feel very good inside to see that even WWE, like the amount of tributes that they were still doing. Like, there are at least 2 videos out on WWE's YouTube page that were them capturing the thoughts and the feelings of their superstars in the days of like after Brodie passed, like to try and catch their final send-offs or just their final feelings about how they felt about the guy as a person, as a father, as a performer, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. And I also think that we need to carry this. Like, I feel like the community as a whole is a lot more together than it normally is. We need to carry this. This can be normal.
Yeah.
We can all be nice to each other, and we can all just enjoy wrestling together. And like, why does this have to go back to the way it was?
Right.
So that's how I feel about the issue. If you can't tell.
Yep. Well, I've said my piece on it. Do you have anything else you want to bring up tonight?
No.
No?
Glad to be back.
Yeah, it feels good to be back. Feels good to have so many people in the chat. We've got, Walter, JD showing up, Hillary in the chat. 6 people watching. We had 7 people at some point. Thank you so much for coming out and checking us out tonight. This Thursday, we are going to be starting our first trilogy back. We are going to be watching Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock, starting at WrestleMania 15, then at WrestleMania 17, then at WrestleMania 19 for the next 3 weeks. That is going to be our first trilogy back. But
we're excited.
I'm very excited for that. Aside from all of that stuff, thank you everybody for coming out and watching. Thank you so much for coming back after we took a little bit of a break. We greatly appreciate it. If you haven't already, check us out in the description below. Check us out at our Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Give us a like if you haven't already. If you don't feel like watching the video podcast, or if you don't feel like watching us live, go ahead and check us out on the audio podcast at Anchor or Spotify or wherever you have your favorite podcasts at. All that stuff is linked in the description below. We will see you this coming Thursday for Austin versus The Rock from WrestleMania 15. You guys have a great night. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.